Then I was kind of tired of making money for other people, decided to open my own communications consulting firm, which is OC, which I still have till today. And then I went to Google. So obviously Google, I joined Google the day the revolution started in Egypt in January of 2011, and really worked on launching a lot of products, a lot of products in Arabic, working with the media to help them tell better stories using all of the Google tools. Left Google, decided to kind of move to Dubai during the transition time that I was with Google. Worked a lot with companies like Kareem and Udacity and Urid, and really helping tech companies or companies that have brands really enter the market. And then Netflix, kind of bringing Netflix into the Middle East, working with Deezer, with the competitor Spotify, and then Olive, which is an online platform for finding interns and kind of the workforce. And then I work today for Gary Vaynerchuk. For those of you who don't know Gary Vaynerchuk, please follow Gary V-E-E. He also has a page in Arabic, which is actually run by a team in Egypt. So Gary V Arabic, if you guys want to consume his content, really an inspiring leader, a passionate motivator, and someone who I really believe in what he does, not just in terms of digital and communications, but just as a business person. So I got so fortunate to work with people like Naguib and Gary. And so I want to talk to you guys more about that later. But please take a screenshot. I would love to hear from you. Please connect with me either on Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever you do. Stay tuned. I got a big announcement coming soon on TikTok. I also have a podcast where I give out all this information for free. I'm super proud that as an Egyptian, 100% Egyptian Muslim, that I'm actually able to have impact on a global scale. And I want you guys to learn what I've been teaching other clients. And so I give that away for free on my podcast. And I'm giving out my email. I would love to hear from you. So please email me if you guys have a question, want help with something, or need to kind of connect with me directly. So every day is a new normal. I think what we're discovering is how things have changed so much since COVID has happened, but not just because of COVID, but because of how digital has disrupted our lives, how the way technology has disrupted our lives, how the way communications and mobiles has changed the way that we see things, current events, social issues, things that are happening today in Egypt, which everyone is talking about on sexual harassment. The way that we're having conversations, the way that we're talking to each other has changed dramatically. And being in communications is not something that's a nice to have or know how to do. It really is something that you really need to learn how to master. So as we step up and kind of embrace kind of what matters in 2020, so much of our lives have changed. And if I think about how we've changed as people, how we've changed as individuals, what we've learned about ourselves, what we've learned about each other's, the core being is communications will always be constant. Communications will be something that everybody needs to learn how to do and do well. And because we live in real time, we need to communicate in real time. It used to be that we had the luxury, if a news story would happen, something bad had tahsal, we'd have like time to build a strategy and think about what we want to do, and then get it to the newspaper by 3 o'clock because that's when they publish, or get it to the evening news or the morning news or the radio station by the next day. Now it's happening in real time. It's going viral. It's picking up. A hashtag is evolving. How do you figure out the best way to communicate? Because it's like you're doing maintenance on an airplane when it's flying in the air, or driving a car down the highway and having to fix it while you're driving it. Everybody can see what you're doing. And you need to be really intentional about your purpose and how you're communicating. Because we live in real time, we need to learn how to communicate in real time. For me, it comes down to this. I have used this slide for years. Why? Because reputation is what matters most. When you think about your reputation, I want you to think about it in terms of currency. What's its worth? What's its value? How do you increase the value of your reputation? How do you build your reputation? How do you protect your reputation? So thinking a lot about your reputation in terms of currency will help you think about what are the things you as a personal brand, you as a business need to be doing to build it, to grow it, and to protect it. I had to put a slide in here about Gary, and not I had to, I wanted to, because when I think about leadership and you think about empathy or leading with kindness or authenticity, I think of Gary. And what makes him unique is how he handles his personal brand. He's like, the buck stops with me, and leadership starts as with personal brands. And a lot of people think, oh, building a personal brand, it's like, hoo-hoo, look at me. I'm so good at this. I'm so good at that. No, personal branding is not about self-promotion. Personal branding is about leadership. I was actually having a call last week with the CEO of Johanna Masr, and we were talking, and there's a colleague of his that was on the phone about how he posted a video on LinkedIn of him working out. And they're like, he's like, oh, people don't really want to see that. And I'm like, people like to see the people behind the company. People want to see the human side of business. People over profits. How do you do your day routine? How do you spend your time with your employees? How do you spend time behind the scenes? Gary does a really good job of that in terms of leadership, leading with his personal brand, thinking about not being a bad guy in business, but being a good guy in business by leading with empathy and kindness and authenticity. Every business and brand and personal brand needs to find a better way to tell good stories. And one of the things that I learned when I worked with Netflix is how they lean into a brand truth. What it means to lean into a brand truth means that you think of a situation that all of your customers are facing and you tap into that and you solve for that. So for example, with Netflix, we've all been in this situation before where we are like, oh, what should we all get together around the TV? Let's all get together and watch something on Netflix. And you spend like a half an hour trying to decide what to watch, or an hour. And then at the end, you don't watch anything. So that's when Netflix was like, let's come up with recommendations. Let's see what they like to watch and propose ideas. So leaning into a brand truth is leaning into something that everyone who touches your brand faces, and then finding a truth to help them solve that problem. Putting yourself in the shoes of your customer is super important. So when you think about how to communicate and lead in a time of crisis, don't be tone deaf. You have to think about, okay, your kids are at home from school because there's no school. What are some of the things that you should be doing as a brand to communicate solutions you can offer? Don't be tone deaf to the situations that people are facing. When people are worried about job security, or people are worried about spending money, should you be promoting things that don't really matter and add value in today's conversation? Always think about what's important to your customer and communicate that versus what's important to you. So putting yourself in their shoes helps you see how you would be in that same situation. What I'm trying to say is that everybody needs to embrace a crisis-ready culture. And that means we're going to be in this thing for a while. We're going to be in this COVID thing for a while. We're going to be in changing times for a while. And so how do we think about the new normal in terms of communications? What are some of the things that we think are essential for us to be doing to see how do we pivot from, okay, we have to be ready to face anything at any time, to actually having strategies that really give us comfort. And I know that's a really weird word, comfort in knowing that what we're doing is going to help our business for the long run. So you think about, where are the advantages? So first things first, safety and security, stabilize your business, figure out what you need to protect, figure out how you need to communicate internally to your teams, and then review your commitments. Second thing is obviously look at what kind of exposure do you have? What kind of impact will that have on the business? Where are we vulnerable? How can we protect the fundamentals of our business? Then you want to pivot into thinking about opportunity. What opportunities are we overlooking that we should be thinking about? Curbside pickup, developing an app, doing more things in terms of delivery, how we can go to customers or create a touchless or a touch point less in transaction. How can we enable our business to be online? How can we do better on supply chain? And then think about all the things you can do to innovate and capitalize on the new ways of working. Okay, so we don't have team meetings anymore. We don't have staff meetings. How are we going to do virtual and social get-togethers? How can we make sure that we're cascading the culture of the company, even though we're in a digital format? Thinking about what are the opportunities, and it's not just up to leadership to come up with them. It's up to the teams. They're the ones that are living that business and doing the things on a day-to-day basis. And then the fourth kind of part is talking about communications. Like, should you be running ads when it's inappropriate time? You should probably pause them. What are some of the meaningful conversations you need to be having with your teams? And where can your brand add value? So when things are not normal or we are at a time of uncertainty, your brand should be thinking, where can I add the most value? So a lot of really big luxury companies did this during COVID. Like Louis Vuitton started making hand sanitizer instead of perfume just to help out. The companies that are making masks instead of clothes, the companies that are making scrubs instead of fashion, like all these things to figure out where can my brand add value now so that I'm doing a good thing for people, I'm paying it forward. So my brand has done something good for the community. And I think about kind of 5 pillars of essential communications. One is inform your audiences on what you're doing. What are you doing as a brand during this time? Inform the audiences how your business practices may have changed. Inform the audiences on what future plans you might be embracing or embarking upon, especially if we go into summer and now back to school. Reassure your customers. Make sure your employees feel briefed. The biggest mistake companies make is they speak externally before talking internally. And I am one of the biggest proponents and supporters and cheerleaders for internal communications. Because if you're not communicating to your employees, you're missing out on a huge audience because they have friends, they have family, they have their own networks, they have their own social circles. They could help tell stories and cascade information for you. And they're a secret weapon that a lot of companies overlook to use. What kind of coordination do you need to do with your suppliers? And then how do you educate and engage with the press? A lot of people are afraid to talk to the press. They're like, I don't have anything newsworthy to share. I don't really have a press announcement to make. But what about talking to the press about the fundamentals of your business, about how you've pivoted during this time, about new ways you're innovating, about your key employees and some of the heroic things that they've been doing during this time? What about talking about profiling some of the management that you have, talking about some of this, the heroes that you have in your teams? There are so many things you can do to communicate with the press. And it's not just when you have a fundraising announcement or a hiring announcement. You really can think about how to tell really good stories and use the press to do that. Which leads me to talk about storytelling. So it is really important to think about what stories are you telling? What images are you using? And how are your stories being used to connect with other people? Are you telling stories that are self-serving, buy? Are you telling stories that are emotional? How can you think about looking at your stories and making sure that they're having an actual impact and change? Try to be authentic. Try to be who you really are. So we're in a situation where nobody's getting polished and hair done and makeup done and photo shoots and authentic productions. People kind of like the raw stuff. Don't you guys like seeing what the celebrities are doing in their homes without the makeup and without the glam squads? It brings a level of intimacy with the brand that I think we're really grateful that COVID allowed us to have. Be agile. So if there's an opportunity to say something that you probably wouldn't have thought of planned on doing, step up on an opportunity to take advantage of something to communicate and try to use that to make a connection. The hardest thing, and I do work with Gary a lot every day, and I see about how they talk about developing and deploying a smart platform strategy. So a lot of talk about the 2 biggest platforms on social right now that have the most organic reach and underpriced attention are TikTok and LinkedIn. But what happens if TikTok gets banned everywhere? What happens if we decide to put all our eggs in the TikTok basket and then TikTok gets banned and stopped and people aren't able to access it? So having a smart platform strategy is key. thinking about where should you be putting your messages, online and offline, in store, in retail, through supply chain. I'm not just talking about LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok and Pinterest and Twitter and Facebook. How do you know what's the right strategy for your business? We spend a lot of time at Vayner talking to clients about this. What's the best platform to be on? What's the content that you should be putting? What is the value that each one provides? It's not like one piece goes everywhere. And really at Vayner, they spend a lot of time thinking about contextual creative. How do you put creative that's relevant to the context you're trying to communicate to? And how do you make sure that what you're doing is culturally relevant? Content should be two things. I've always been saying this for a long time. It should be shareable and snackable. So what are you putting together that you want to share? What makes you share something on your Facebook page? What makes you share a post on Instagram from your feed to your story? What makes you retweet somebody? That's the kind of story that you want to create, is the one that somebody wants to share. And then snackable has nothing to do with popcorn. It has a lot to do with, making it easy to understand, making it easy to digest. If someone has to sit and, cut with a fork and knife with steak and chew, it's going to take them longer to understand it. Same thing, like snackable, quick, snappy, fun content that you can understand easily from a headline, understand easily from an image, understand easily from a video. This is something we learned at YouTube, is know your ABCD's, is always think about attracting the attention of a customer, make sure they hear what your brand stands for, connect with them by making them think about your brand, and then direct them to a call to action. So do you want them to download your app? Do you want them to purchase? Do you want them to sign up for a community event? Do you want them to be a part of one of your campaigns? Do you want them to sign up for your newsletter? Think about what is it that you want them to do. Do you want them to respond in a certain way? And then think about how you can do that. I know I talked about this earlier when talking about Gary, but for everyone who says, I'm not a personal brand, I don't really like to put myself out there. Everybody has the power to be a personal brand. Everybody has the power to be a powerful personal brand. It just takes two things. One, talk about something that you are consistently able to do. So it must be something that you're passionate about. And two, you have to be yourself. So the only way you're going to sustain doing something is to do something that you are passionate about doing and can talk about at endless times of the day or on the weekends or on nights that you want to put out in your content. The format really depends on how you feel. Like, I'm very comfortable doing voice. I love doing podcasts. I'm not that comfortable doing face-to-face videos. I can do them, but I like to prefer voice instead. I love to write. So picking out what is it that you want to talk about and talk about endlessly, and then find the format that makes you the most comfortable, is the only way you will succeed as a personal brand. Before I wrap up, I want to leave you guys with sort of kind of 8 practical approaches. It's just one slide. I'd love you to take a picture of it to think about how you should be able to communicate and lead in times of crisis. 1, get back to the basics. Talk about your brand story. Talk about your origins. During this year of 2020, remind people who you are as a business, who you are as a brand. Never, ever, ever get tired or stop talking about your brand values, your brand purpose, your brand intent. That matters more than anything in days and times like we're in right now. Secondly is place smart bets. So you're going to have to take some risks about things you do and don't want to do, but place some smart bets. The only way you will know if something will work is if you try it. So you have to be willing to try things just to test and find out, does going live work, on a social platform? Does doing delivery work? Like, you have to place bets and try things. And the only way you're going to know if the experiment is worthy is to try it. Think about operating in sprints. And by sprints, I mean, think short term, because things are changing. You don't want to invest in a lot of things in a very, like, that will put you in a very vulnerable position. Operate in short-term sprints. Think 2-3 months out, 2-3 months out, 2-3 months out, and deliver against those sprints. Be super proactive. Like, I think, one of the things, especially in my role with Gary and with VaynerMedia, like, I have to be proactive about trying things. So in order to get to one yes, I have to do 10 asks. You have to be willing to be proactive. You're never going to get a yes if you don't try to ask somebody. So if you're nervous to ask for help, or if you're nervous about thinking about, well, I really like to partner with this company, but I'm not sure if they'll do it, the quickest way to find out is just simply to ask them. So be proactive. Lean into internal comms. Like I said earlier, it's something I super, super, super believe in. And I really want everyone to think about, what are they doing to communicate internally with their teams? Is it frequency of meetings? Is it all hands with the employees? Is it coming up with a fun newsletter? Is it everyone comes to like a weekly, hangout or Zoom to talk about something not related to work? Like, what are you doing to build the stickiness in your culture and your business? I saw today that Mohammed Abbar in Dubai announced that nobody from now on will have a title. Their companies will no longer have titles because they think that that's hurting the culture, or not hurting the culture, but like he wants to embrace a culture of human first, not title first, and all hands on deck. I thought it was a super, super, super bold move and very creative way to build a cohesive culture. And I thought it was super inspiring that he took that move. Number 6, tap into others' expertise. Like right now you're in a situation where like you might want to do a delivery business, but you don't know how to do the last mile logistics. Find out somebody who has done it and ask for their help. Build your personal brand, build your personal brand, build your personal brand on repeat. If you guys want help with this, please reach out to me. I would love to help anyone who wants to build their personal brand, how to get started, how to do it. I do a lot of workshops on this, and I'm happy to like reach out and help you with yours. And working with Gary, obviously I learned up close and up front and personal how the master himself does it. And then authentic storytelling wins. Like, what are you doing to tell really normal, authentic, raw, intimate stories? Because that's what really will make a difference in a brand. Again, connect with me. Feel free to email me. Love you to follow me, DM me. I answer these myself. I may take longer than usual, but I'd love to listen and hear from all of you. And I hope that you guys got some value out of today's talk. Thank you so much. Hi. Okay, so I got a lot of questions. Wow. Okay, there's a common belief in Egypt the last 3 years has been more with COVID. Brands should entertain. What's your view on this? On view of Delia? First of all, I'm so happy to see all these guys from Egypt and all the messages you're sending me. I'm not sure in terms of, oh, thank you, Iman. Thank you, Rana. I'm so grateful, you guys, to hear from you. Just in terms of like Egypt and the brand, I think one of the things that I love about what the things I'm seeing from Egypt, and can't wait to get it back there, hopefully in September, is how we can figure out the best way to tell Egypt's story. Because Egypt is doing some incredible things, and I just really proud of, especially all the things that are happening now in tourism. I'm very excited about the museum opening. Awesome session, Maha. Thank you. Thank you, Amr. Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, Omar. Nice to see you, Omar. Dalia, is there any other questions I can answer for you? I don't know, the guys from Creative Industry Summit. Do I need to take any other questions? Do you guys want me to log off? Can you guys let me know what you guys need me to do? But I'm super happy to be with everybody. Thank you, Huda. I appreciate everyone kind of tuning in today to hear about Sesh. So please connect with me. Please email me, DM me, follow me. I guess I'm all done. See you guys later. Have a good day. Bye.